Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Brandon Shank, and welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the studio, and welcome to the Brandon Shank Podcast. We are here live in the studio after this long-awaited summer.
Yeah, it's been good. I'm also back in the corner again, so it just feels right.
Just sometimes things are just meant to be. Beautiful day, sun's out, you know. The beaches are full.
Yeah.
Good time. It's a great day to be alive, man. It's a great day to just breathe in the air.
It's because of that storm last night too. It's fresher outside.
It is fresh. It feels nice.
Dude, the humidity the last couple days has been. I'm not built for that. So
no. Me neither, bro. It was 109 yesterday.
Yeah, it was gross. It was disgusting.
I had my windows down on my truck because my AC, I got to charge that thing. And, dude, I honestly thought halfway home I was going to stop and get something because I was like, I don't know if I'm going to make it. It was only a 20-minute drive, but I was like, 10 minutes in, like I might need some Gatorade to make this trip home to finish it.
Dude, it was like, so Sunday morning getting up early for church, it's still dark outside. And my garage door goes up and I step outside and it's like the ground is emanating heat.
Oh. It was awful.
And I'm like, it's not supposed to be this way at 5 a.m.
No. Well, I work out in my garage, and the last couple of weeks, there's been a couple of times I think I may have died and came back to life. I was like, I don't remember a thing. There's no breeze. It's hotter. It's usually okay because our room over the garage keeps the garage a little bit cooler when all the doors are down.
Yeah.
Just because. And it was a heat box, man. And it's 100 some outside anyway. So it was in the morning, but I think I may have died and resurrected a couple times.
I believe it.
Maybe not resurrected. Maybe
I feel like my microphone is blocking my view from you, so I'm going to move it. So just keep,
there's nothing better than
ignore the clicks and the pops and whatever.
Actually, there's nothing worse than not being able to see this face. That's all I'm going to say. There is something that I saw that was very interesting. There is a petition going around with the new owner of the Washington Commanders. And they want the Redskins name back.
Oh, yeah.
So you're like, how do you bring something back where it was culturally appropriate to get rid of? But there's a group of Native Americans that have started this petition.
Yes.
And they're saying that it's essentially cancel culture to exclude Native Americans.
Yeah.
From the name.
I saw this. Yeah.
And so I'm thinking, is there a win here? You get rid of the name because it's racist, and then it's cancel culture because you got rid of the name.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. I don't even know how to navigate this because I feel like that scripture, the wisdom of the world is folly. It just seems like nothing you can do. Is the name inappropriate? Well, then don't use it.
Yeah.
Is it not inappropriate? And we just think it's inappropriate because of how our language has moved towards a specific thing? Then I don't know.
Yeah.
Would it be racist if it was, and I'm not saying it's because I'm white, but white skins, or if you think of black skins or red skins, like if that is a racial term, then absolutely get rid of it.
Yeah,
100%. Sure. But I don't know if it would sound racist if it was something else. I don't know. I legitimately don't know the answer to this. I just think it's baffling that we're still talking about it. You already got rid of it.
Yeah.
So why bring it back?
I think that the whole interesting part of this conversation, though, is that, a group, and I'm not saying it's all of them, but a group of Native Americans are saying, no, we want that name back.
It's odd.
And again, I don't know the full ins and outs in the stories, but from what I guess I've heard is that the whole name change in the first place came from more like not Native Americans. So that's the thing for me is like, look, I think the hard part about this is all of it. It's subject to a lot of people's different opinions.
There's no right answer.
Rather than like fact. And so there isn't a right answer.
I want to know why Redskins were called Redskins.
I can look it up.
I want to know the real reason. Was it because their skin was red, which makes sense, or was it a derogatory term? Right?
Yeah.
Anybody ever called you a redhead?
I don't have red.
You don't have red hair,
but I have a red beard. Yeah.
So if you were a redhead and somebody you're a redhead, is it offensive? I don't know. I'm not a redhead.
So it first occurred in 1769. The first unchallenged use of the word redskin occurs when a British lieutenant colonel translates a letter from an Indian chief promising safe passage if the officer visited his tribe in the upper Mississippi Valley. So I'd have to read more about it.
Sounds made up. It's not true. How do they know in 17? Oh, I know a story.
Letters.
Yeah. They referred to them as the Redskins.
Yes.
Were they like a brutal, like undefeated, amazing group of warriors, and they just got a reputation?
Yeah. So again, according to Wikipedia, how did the term redskin originate? Linguistic evidence indicates that while some tribes may have used red to refer to themselves during the pre-Columbian era based upon their origin stories, the general use of the term was in response to meeting people who called themselves white or their slaves black. And so, yeah, it's in light, much like white, black, red. It's just, we gave people, just pull out the Crayola box and,
wow.
Yeah.
So is it, I mean, I don't, listening to that,
yeah.
I don't know if it's racist. It sounds like it's an identifier.
Yeah.
And Native Americans want to be celebrated. So I don't know. I think, like you said, you can have 100 different opinions. But my thing is, why go back down this road? Why go back down the road? You've already changed the name. Don't change it back.
Yeah, that's the thing.
Just change it to something else you want to change it. But I'm irritated because I bought a lot of Commanders gear. So don't change it again. Just keep it and let's win. That's what I say, Washington. Josh Harris, keep the name and let's win. Let's win. The uniforms look great. The W looks awesome. Those things are great. And you say it's a Commanders. It's starting to catch. I know that everybody's like, fight for all. Do you see hail to the, I get it. I get it.
So back in 2016, a Washington Post poll found that 9 in 10 Native Americans weren't offended by the name Redskins.
Who are the Native Americans? That's what they'll say.
Yeah, that's a good point.
But
that's what I'm saying. It's a revolving door that
move away from it. That's what I say. I mean, I'm a fan my whole life. I grew up in D.C. I used to go to the mobile stations where they had the little keychains you could get, and it would play the fight song. They would have you fill up with you fill up your car with gas. You buy a certain amount of gallons. You get like the Washington at the time, the Redskin glasses. I mean, I was in that era. I was there in the late '80s, early '90s when we were amazing. Mark Rippon, one of the best kickers in the game. Chip Lohmiller, Ernest Biner, Darryl Green, Gary Clark, Art Monk. Like I was there. And it was great days. But, let's just move on. That's what I say. Let's just move on. Let it go. It ain't that big of a deal. We ain't fighting for anything. Win, and nobody cares. That's my thing. Win, and nobody really cares. But I feel like, it's just one of those things.
Yeah.
I saw something today on a car. It was the name of a band, and you'll never guess it. There's no way you'll guess it. It's from the 90s, late 90s, well, early 2000s. Probably one of the biggest. They had a big hit. And you can't Google it.
I'm not Googling it.
It was a big hit in the early 2000s, but I was blown away when I saw a sticker on a car because I was like, wow, that's like a real fan. Can you name that band? You get 3 shots. And I'll tell you, it's led by a female.
Okay.
They had one of the biggest songs in this era. It was featured on a movie. It was featured on a movie.
Oh, Sixpence.
Nope. Good guess.
Come on.
You got 2 more.
That's a good guess.
It is a good guess. You got 2 more.
Me.
You got 2 more. That's 1. But it's a female lead, a kind of a rock grungy.
Okay. Oh.
That helps.
Man.
That does help because you just eliminated like
I don't know, man.
a lot of genres right there.
I mean, I agree with you. In the 90s?
Well, late 90s, early 2000s, really like probably early 2000s, 2001, 2002.
And it was like pop. Like more like,
yeah, pop grunge rock.
I wasn't listening to that music.
Yeah, but you know bands. You would know that. You're going to know them when I say it. So that's what I'm saying. You'll know it.
Yeah.
Just think of somebody that was out front, a band that was well known, and they kind of fade away.
Yeah. I'm drawing a blank right now. It was like an actual like band though.
Yeah.
It wasn't like a solo artist that had a backup band.
No,
it was like
it was a band. It was a legit band. And they were well known. And
Avril Lavigne? Is that early 2000s?
No, that's close.
Oh man.
You get 1 more.
I don't
You get 1 more. That's an artist though. I mean, it's a band, but it's a strong female lead.
I give up, man.
Sticker on the back of a car. One more chance.
I don't know. I don't even know if Pink was doing her thing back then.
No.
But that's big. That's a big name.
Wake me up inside. Wake me up.
Oh, Evanescence.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the sticker on the car. I was like, I cannot believe it. That's a diehard fan.
Diehard fans out there.
They were good.
Yeah. She
Save
can sing.
me.
Hey, here's the thing. She can sing.
Dude.
There's if you don't know, I'd have to look up her name. The lead singer of Evanescence, she has some like solo stuff out there, or like, you know, I think I remember watching a YouTube clip where she's almost like in like some opera setting. Dude, she's got pipes.
Dude,
like,
well, the song she sang, I mean, as a professional male vocalist myself, the songs that she sang.
I'm so mad at myself for not guessing that.
You know, you went with Pink and Avril Lavigne, and I was very clear that it wasn't an artist, but I could tell that being on the spot, it just kind of threw you a little bit, which I understand.
Artist, but,
I mean, it's kind of like there's no prep time. It was just go after
I don't ever have prep time.
But now that you know, now that you know Evanescence, it is kind of one of those things like, how did I miss that, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, but it's all right, you know. But hey, I have an encouragement for everybody out there. You know, fitness is one of those things for all of us that we kind of can get overwhelmed with and feel like drudgery, shame, guilt, condemnation, whatever it may be. But I read an article and it said that the goal is no longer 10,000 steps a day that will keep you alive and living longer than ever. It's 4,000.
Oh, wow.
Which is only the equivalent of 2.5 miles a day. Not straight, but just 2.5 miles. Yeah. Some people walk half a mile just walking to the bathroom every day, probably, you know, wherever you work. 2.5 miles. That's not bad.
Okay.
It makes you really wonder, what are people not doing to get in 2.5 miles?
That's doable.
It's not far.
4,000?
Yeah, that's not that much.
I'm not gonna lie, 10,000 sometimes was like, okay, that's
it's daunting.
Yeah,
like I would need to get a new pair of On Clouds every day. On Cloud, hit me up, sponsorship.
Oh, so we
those shoes are awesome. By the way,
I have an old Fitbit watch, and I let my son wear it one day. I'll give you a guess how many steps he got in one day.
13,000.
Not even close.
21.
You're getting closer.
23,000.
You're getting closer.
27,000.
26,000.
Wow, that's like.
You know my youngest son though. He's like the Energizer Bunny. Like
12 miles.
Dude, I was impressed.
That's impressive.
I was really impressed. The kid never stops moving.
Well, people are like, how do kids never gain weight? Well, because they move.
Exactly. Yes.
Like, well, kids just have a great metabolism. Well, that may be true, but the reality is kids move.
Yep.
And that's why. So there's two things that are bothering me today. One, there's a sriracha shortage.
Oh, bro. That hurts my heart.
It's
I love sriracha.
I haven't had sriracha in a good bit of time. Haven't had it.
Have you ever had the which is also really hard to find, the bottles of ketchup that are ketchup and sriracha already pre-mixed? It's my favorite ketchup in the world.
Yeah, my father-in-law, he goes hard on that.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. You know, I like that stuff. I'm a purist when it comes to my ketchup though.
Yeah.
I'll mix stuff in it every now and then, but I think when I have ketchup, I just want ketchup. And I'm a hot sauce guy.
Yeah.
So I do like that stuff. If I'm like going to make a burger and I'm going to put hot sauce on it with ketchup, I'll just use that instead.
Yeah.
But when it comes to my French fries, they got to be unadulterated ketchup.
You know, it's something that's very old school that I haven't seen someone do for a very long time, but I remember doing this all the time as a kid. You'd go to like McDonald's and you'd squirt the little, ketchup on your little paper or whatever from your burger. Which I didn't have a burger.
But they definitely didn't have a Big Mac. We know that.
That's right. But you'd have your little ketchup pile, and then you'd open one of those little pepper packets, and you'd put pepper in your ketchup. You ever do that?
No.
I did it all the time. And it was good. Really good.
Put salt on my ketchup before.
Yeah, well, that too. Yeah, you do a little bit of salt and pepper. Try it, people. If you've never had it before.
I don't see why it would be a bad thing.
Yeah.
I like pepper.
It's a little spice.
I'm lazy when I eat. So for me, I like, give me my hot sauce, give me my stuff, but I don't like do a ton of prep. I'm like, I just want to eat. So if like something's done, I'll eat it while something else is getting done. Like I just like, sometimes I'm just like, I just want to eat. You know what I'm saying? A little bit lazy. There's one more thing bothering me, and I don't know if it's bothering me, but I just want to put it out there for all of you who may feel like you're making big strides in the social media world. I don't understand why husbands and wives talk back and forth on social media.
That's a good point. Yeah.
And we all know that y'all are sitting across from each other in the same room. You know that you're doing that. It's 8:30 at night when the kids are in bed, or if your kids, whether or not they are, you're sitting in the same room, maybe beside laughing as you're writing back and forth to each other on social. But it's funny to me when husbands and wives do that. Now, I'm not saying I'm not guilty. I don't know. Maybe I am. My wife's not on there enough. Like, she never gets on social. She might look at stuff, but she don't post a lot or anything.
Yeah.
So, but it's funny to me when husbands are like, you'll look on there, like, man, they're having a legit conversation for the world to see. Like, why not just text each other? Maybe I'm just more private than a lot of people. But it's just a funny thing to me. I don't know if it's bothering me. It's just funny. I saw it the other day and I'm thinking, why don't y'all just like text each other?
Yeah.
It's a legit conversation.
Or like private messaging one another when you're sitting on the couch across from them.
Oh my gosh. It's happening in my home where there's times where I have to look at Case, she'll look at me like, let's just put these down.
Yeah.
Like we don't my addiction is funny videos.
Oh yeah.
And memes. Oh.
Yeah.
Like the ones that are like the gorillas when they make funny faces about things. Like I just can't stop laughing.
You sent me one the other day about when you're on the worship team and listening to a live stream back Sunday after church, and you're like, "Oh dear Lord."
I didn't think I sounded like that.
Yeah, where you thought you sounded amazing.
Yeah, I had that every week after I preach. I'm like, "Oh gosh, why'd you say that?" No, yeah, but they're funny. Like I laugh hard. I like laughing.
Yeah.
But I have to stop because I'm like, I could scroll when I get bored. I could scroll and just watch funny videos all day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's not good. But, people complain, well, kids these days have their face in their phones. And like, well, it's not that what the adults did before us was better. It was just different.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not that media is awful and, there's brain surgery or brain research. And I get all that. But the reality is this is the generation today and they're brilliant.
Yeah.
They're really smart. Yeah. And technology can do things that we couldn't do 30 years ago. So I can't wait to see this generation take it to a new place. Like my sons, they get so frustrated when we go somewhere and there's DirecTV. No offense to all you DirecTV out there. They get mad. I don't want all these stupid commercials. Yeah. And I'm like, hold up, easy, dog.
Or you can't just pick whatever you want.
Yeah, I'm like, easy. Like if I got rid of our Hulu and went to another sponsor, Hulu, bring it on. If I got rid of Hulu, they would lose their mind. Or Netflix, they would lose their mind.
Yeah.
They have nothing good for DirecTV or they have nothing good for cable. They want it now. Yeah. They don't want commercials. They don't want to have to wait. It's a good generation.
Yeah.
Teaching them a lot of great things. I hate commercials too now, though. I can't tell you the last time I watched a show live other than a sporting event.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't even have a form of live TV.
Other than sporting events, I always watch football, baseball, playoffs for NBA. I'll watch those things live, but I cannot tell you the last time I watched a show live. It's probably been 5 years.
Yeah.
Now, watching a show that has the seasons and you just watch each season you go through, whether it's on Netflix or Hulu, I'll do that. But I never, ever, who does watch live TV anymore? Who does that?
Old people. Sorry. I'll leave.
Hey, you asked for it.
Don't blame me. You asked for it.
All right, so is there anybody in your life that if you FaceTime them, they would always answer? That you could say 100% they will answer if I FaceTime them? Unless they're having a life-altering procedure.
Yeah.
Who?
Well, my boy TJ. Shout out to my boy TJ.
He would answer FaceTime no matter where you're at.
Yeah, he would. Absolutely. Yeah.
All right,
he doesn't
care.
Him. All right.
Call him right now. Let's let him ask us a question.
All right. I mean, he is at work, but...
Hey, no. You said anytime.
We're very clear. I think that he will.
Because I think there's only one person in my life who would answer FaceTime no matter what.
Your wife?
My mom.
Oh, your mom?
My wife would answer.
Here, let's try.
Probably my mom.
I hope this works.
Come on, TJ. Come on, TJ.
We're all rooting for you.
Come on, TJ. Answer the phone, buddy. You can do it.
Oh, he's going to be at stinking work.
You can do it.
This guy.
Oh, hey! There he is. He did.
There he is.
What's up, man? You answered.
You're on the podcast, TJ.
Your beard looks beautiful, bro. That's a beautiful.
Did you just hear what he said? Say that one more time, loud and proud.
I'll always answer when Corey calls.
Wow!
Hey!
Wow! Wow! So I mean, you pretty much just validated what Corey said. He said TJ will always answer FaceTime when I call.
Yeah, Brandon asked me, he said, is there anybody in your life, if you FaceTime them, they'll always answer? I said, my boy TJ. He said, prove it. Here we are.
Hey.
Here we are.
I love that beard, man. That looks good, bro.
Yeah. That's a good-looking man right there.
Good-looking beard.
Yeah, right. Dude, you've had your beard way longer than me.
Hey, TJ, man, you can ask us anything. Anything. You're on You asked for it today. This is you. This is your moment. Anything you want the world wants to know from us.
Put me on the spot. I don't know.
Come on, you're a man of mystery and intelligence.
What's that?
He said you're a man of mystery and intelligence. Oh, he's like breaking up a little bit.
He's working out there in Wild and Wonderful, baby. Dub V.
No. One question.
Yeah. One.
I can't.
I know he's breaking up. He's breaking up, everybody. Oh no.
Come back to us.
Can you hear me? He can't. Sorry.
And then we lost him.
We lost him, everybody.
All right.
Here.
There he is. He's
Okay.
back.
I can barely hear you though. You're like outside. Where are you at? Oh, yeah, he's at work. See?
Okay.
It looks like he even went outside to take this phone call.
Dude, the amount of rings it took before he answered, I bet you he was deep inside of that building.
Yeah.
He was deep inside. He weaved his way out, bro. You know, he was in a sprint.
Do you have a question? He doesn't. Look, TJ's a man of few words.
I have a question for him.
Okay.
I want to know, do you condition your beard? And if so, what do you use? Because that's a beautiful beard. Show the people the beard, Corey.
He takes
Show him the beard.
He takes care of it.
Tell us what you do for that beard maintenance.
So I use conditioner. Like when I wash it, I don't use like soap or anything because it dries it out. And then like either oil or like a pomade in the morning for the day.
It's beautiful.
This guy taught me what to do with mine. I don't really follow it all the time as much as I should.
I mean, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Thank you, TJ. Love you, bro. Great seeing you.
Love you, bro.
See you, bro. Well, what do I say, Corey? You nailed it. Sometimes you know your friends, sometimes you don't. And now you know your friend.
The dude walked out of work to answer my call. I'm just saying.
His exact words.
TJ's a ride or die.
Well, you were a big
He's
part
my
of
boy.
his, you know what's cool about that? You're a big part of his life.
That's true.
You know? TJ, a big part of his life with Jesus.
You know what?
It's awesome.
Let me share a story about TJ. So TJ and I, we attended the same church for a long time, worked at the same church for a long time. But he was the guy that I knew. Like, you have those people in your life that are, your ride or dies, where it's like I would be like getting ready for worship or whatever, and I knew, sometimes in the church world, like, my wife would come later and she'd have all the kids. This was when our kids were really, really
You don't mean
young.
that, Lauren. You don't mean that. Go ahead, Corey.
But your wife,
good,
your wife shows up to church and you're not able to be there all the time to like greet her at the door and help her with the kids. Well, you know who would? TJ. Every single time. My wife would say like, TJ would be out in the parking lot waiting for me to show up so that when I parked, he'd help me with the kids. Like, that's my boy.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah, dude.
True armor bearer of a friend,
Yep.
Love you, TJ. Thanks for joining us, man.
Woo.
Thanks for the tips on how to groom our beards.
Yep.
We all need it.
You saved me a lot of flack today, too. So appreciate it.
I wouldn't have gotten hard on you, man. I'd have just cried with you.
Yeah.
Hey, so something that I watched that I really want to encourage people, I want to get you to think differently about something. So everybody knows I hate the whole NIL thing with college athletes, paying college athletes. I thought it was a bad idea from the start. I think it's ruining the game. I think it's ruining the sport. College football is turning into just a disaster because players are playing. Like, you used to love it when a player selected to go to a school and then they had to play there for 4 years. And if they left that school, you had to take 1 year where you couldn't play anywhere until you were able to play again. So if I left my sophomore year, I couldn't play for another whole year.
Jeez.
And you could lose a year of eligibility. Most time you did. And they changed that rule to where now you can transfer once anywhere you want. I think it's just once, but a lot of guys will grow. They'll transfer once, and then when they graduate college to go do their masters, they'll go somewhere for a half semester to play a fifth year or whatever.
Yeah,
they work the system. NIL, I hate it. I hate paying players. I don't think players should be making more than coaches, especially at a college level. I think in the pros it's one thing, but in the college level, it just creates such a toxic environment. I don't take back anything I just said. But I have a brand new perspective after watching Untold with Johnny Manziel.
Okay.
It's on Netflix.
Okay.
You need to go watch it. Basically, it takes the rise and fall. I don't like to use that word lightly about the fall because Johnny Manziel was a phenomenal college football player. And the whole story is about how he rose to fame fast. Like, they beat Alabama, and he talked about every game. After the game, he would go outside to the bus, and he would hug his parents and get on the bus. This particular game, they beat Alabama. Nobody thought they would. And he went outside of the locker room, and there was thousands of people clamoring to try to get to him. And he said it was overwhelming. Like, what in the world have we just done? And he got on the bus. And at that point, he couldn't go to class anymore. He said there was nothing organized for him. So people wanted autographs. People wanted stuff. All the time, people wanted to get around him. He was a celebrity. And so they started, he went down, I believe it was in Miami, and somebody approached him and said, hey, will you, and he had no money.
Yeah.
He said, we had no money, man.
Yeah.
He was like, college athletes didn't have money. And so he said, all these people are benefiting in my likeness. And he said, they started selling my jersey at the store. And then so I get somebody say, hey, will you sign autographs for a couple grand? He was like, no, I can't. Kept ignoring this guy. And finally the guy gave him an address. So he went to the address and he goes up in a hotel room. Nobody's there. And it's packed with a bunch of memorabilia to sign. So he signed everything, took a picture of it, sent it to the guy who at the airport told him to go sign stuff. And the guy said the money's in the safe. And it was $30,000 in cash. And that was the beginning of the Johnny Manziel era when he started doing this, because he said, I had no money. And so his best friend at the time created this. I'm not going to tell you all of it, but this is the gist of it. The best friend at the time was like his manager, and they created a hoax. People were like, where's Johnny Manziel getting all of his money? Well, they created this hoax to say his family was oil tycoons. They're rich. And that's what I even thought.
Wow.
They weren't.
Jeez.
They just created it so that he was getting all this money under the table for signing these autographs. But in the meantime, the head coach, Sumlin, he ended up getting a big extension at Texas A&M for thousands and thousands, or millions, like one of the highest paid coaches. His offensive coordinator, Cliff Kingsbury, went to Texas Tech, took the head coach position there, and then he ended up going Arizona Cardinals, getting ahead. Like these guys' careers all took off. And I'm not saying that they didn't have something to do with his success, but Johnny Manziel, Texas A&M rebuilt their stadium.
Yeah.
They built a whole new field house. They built a whole new complex for their team. All the school thrived. All the money that started coming in because of him. And all these coaches' careers thrived because of him. Like Kevin Sumlin, I don't know if he's coaching still, but he's kind of struggled since Johnny Manziel left. And I know Cliff Kingsbury just got fired from the Cardinals. These guys, I'm not saying they're not great coaches. I'm not saying that at all. They may be phenomenal. I'm simply saying all the people around him, their lives got better.
Yeah.
They made a ton of money, millions and millions. And had Johnny Manziel not won the Heisman and been the phenom that he was, that doesn't happen.
Yeah. That's a good point.
It doesn't happen.
Mm-hmm.
The stadiums don't get rebuilt.
Yeah.
These $100 million projects don't take place. And so the problem with the NIL isn't because of the athletes. It's because of the colleges.
Yeah.
These colleges, and they started selling his jersey in the bookstore. Adidas sponsored them. So they're making a ton of money off of his likeness. And he wasn't getting any of it. And he's a college kid that's getting, and I used to think, well, you got a scholarship, that should be enough. Well, it should be, but I think there should be limits on it. I think that if you have an athlete like this, then you say, hey, $50,000 a year, and you're thinking that's a ton of money for a kid. Well, these kids are getting $1 million. Some of them are signing these NIL deals. Saying $50,000 if you're a college kid, you need money for food and some cars. That's $50,000. But I understand the tension now, and I'm not saying that's the solution. It's not. I'm just saying I understand the tension now. And he's like, I looked around me and everybody's benefiting, and I have nothing.
Yeah.
And he said, so I started signing autographs
from a lot of his hard work.
And he said, and I got to the pros, and I got drafted by the Browns, and I just didn't want to be there. He said, I didn't want to play. I wanted this whole thing to be destroyed. I didn't want to play football. I didn't love it anymore. Yeah. My passion was gone. And all that to say, there's a lot more intertwined with that story, but it's just something to think about. Like, we have done this. The rich people got richer, and it was just one of these things where these kids are the ones that are making all the money for the schools, and their families, their moms and their dads and their families can't afford things. And I'm not saying that's the case. I mean, Johnny Manziel wasn't dirt poor. That wasn't the portrayal that he was trying to give off, but they weren't oil tycoons.
Yeah.
And you got these athletes whose families are struggling to get by, and the schools are making millions because these athletes are Heisman candidates. It's just a weird, it's a thing where I get it now. I get it. Like, if these kids can go to college and make some money for their families to get out of the spot that they're in, it makes sense now. And I don't like it, but in the same breath, I understand why there's frustration from the athlete.
Yeah. Well, I think things have to change and adapt, because I would imagine, take it back, and you would know this way more than me, but take it back 10 years, take it back 20 years, these, college, games probably weren't even like televised at some point, way back when, that we as a culture are getting to a place where we're consuming more and more and more, and we want more sports, and we want to see this. We want to watch the college sports itself has grown so much in the last, 10, 20 years, that when you really boil it all down, it's entertainment. It really is. It's entertainment.
And college football is a massive market.
That's what I'm saying.
The reason that these college, not to interrupt, but the reason these colleges, so you see a lot of this conference realignment, And these colleges are going, West Virginia went to the Big 12. They're in West Virginia.
Yeah.
And now they're traveling to Texas for games, right?
Yeah.
And so there's this realignment where you got teams from California wanting to join the ACC, and you got all of this weird realignment. Well, the college football coaches, they've been very vocal. They're like, for us, this doesn't matter because we can charter a plane and fly to California. This is a problem for our baseball teams. This is a problem for our lacrosse teams. This is a problem for these teams that don't have the resources the football program has.
Yep.
And everybody knows that college sports are carried by football.
Yeah.
That the reason that those programs succeed, every other program in college is those schools, the programs benefit from the football program. The football program makes all the money, and that's how those programs develop.
Yeah.
When Michael Vick was at Virginia Tech, and I guess it was 99, whenever they went to the national championship, they lost. But right after that, Virginia Tech, I don't remember how much they got paid. It was a ridiculous amount of money just for making the game. And you get paid by the conference, you get paid television rights, you get paid by the bowl game. And they built a whole new complex. I went there right after Michael Vick took them there. I went to Virginia Tech's campus. They had a whole new football complex.
Yeah.
Just from the money that came in from that.
Yeah.
Millions and millions and millions and millions, and not including all the donors that now want to give because they want to be a part of something winning. My point, though, is all this conference realignment, it's all money, right? Basically, what's going to happen in college football is it's going to turn into north, south, east, and west. There's going to be something where it's one big power conference. I mean, something's going to happen where the strong are getting stronger and everybody else is being left behind. Like, there's the days where these small D1s had a chance are over because what's happening now is all these athletes are going to these small D1 colleges. And in the minute they have a really good year and they're a conference player of the year, guess where they're going?
That's a good point.
Alabama, Florida, Georgia. These guys are transferring out. And I understand why. Are you going to stay at a mid-level school like a James Madison? You're going to go to James Madison and you're going to be a star quarterback or a star safety, and then you get a call from Michigan. You're like, no, I'm going to stay at JMU. Now, don't get me wrong, JMU's got a great football program. They're a great school. But do you have a better chance of making millions and setting your family up for the rest of their life by going to Michigan and being a starting safety or James Madison?
Yeah, I see your point.
And it takes away from these teams that used to have some really cool – you're not going to see this anymore. You're going to have all these big names come out of big schools because everybody's going to transfer to the big school that if you don't get recruited out of high school, back in the day you could go to a JUCO or junior college. Well, now you're going to go to the biggest D1 you can find, and you're just going to try to be a starter. And then you're going to transfer out the next year.
Yeah.
Or you're going to go to a D2 and transfer out. So all these big schools, by the time kids are sophomores, juniors, they're going to pull. I mean, it happens every year. And it stinks because some of these teams got really good and then 6 of their starters leave.
Yeah.
They're all going big D1. And you're like, well, but it's all about getting to the NFL. And when college has become, that's not about scholarships. I mean, it's great to have your school paid for. And I know this isn't the majority of college athletes. It's a small percentage of them. But, you got college athletes that made, I don't remember if it was Justin Fields. I don't remember who it was. It made $1 million and didn't even start at Ohio State, and then went to Georgia, and then went back. I don't know if it was him. I forget who it was, but one of the quarterbacks made $1 million not even playing.
Jeez, I just wanted to look up the percentage of college football players that make it to the NFL. 1.6%. It's crazy.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is interesting because it's like, what do you? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. The world, it's hard because you can't always predict these things. But I would imagine in something like this, you could have foreseen this coming. Because again, the way I see it, and I'm not, I love sports, but I don't ingest it as much as a lot of people. But the way I see it is, you're entertainers, and your people on the field are your actors and your actresses. And at some point, that mindset sets in. And, yeah, I could see how it'd be tough that if you look around and because of your performance, your entertainment, what you bring to the table, other people are making millions of dollars. That's tricky. I don't even know. Yeah, I don't know what you do with that.
Well, so a couple of things in the news. Another thing that I just read was the guy Michael Orr, who was featured in The Blind Side. You ever seen that movie?
Yes. Yeah.
So he just filed a petition in a Tennessee court that the central element of that story was a lie.
Oh, wow.
And concocted by the family to enrich itself at his expense. And he's saying that he was never really adopted. And also that there was money made from that movie, royalties that he never collected, that they got, that he didn't get anything for letting him use his likeness in that movie. And he's also saying that they portrayed him as maybe not as intelligent in that movie
Yeah.
when he was really just shy or kind of to himself and didn't trust or whatever it may be. And so he said that's hurt him as a professional, where people look at him as not as intelligent or not as competent as other people. So there's all this stuff kind of coming out about this now, where I guess him and the family don't have any connection anymore.
Was he not involved at all in the making of that movie?
I don't believe so.
Oh man,
I don't believe he had a big role. I think they used his likeness.
Yeah,
and he didn't get to contribute in certain ways. I don't. This is just the articles were saying that there's not a relationship with the family anymore, and so it is. It's like, and now there's the money thing. He's done with the NFL. He said it's hurt his opportunities there, and the people just don't look at him as competent because of that movie and the portrayal of it. And he's saying that the family's used him for financial gain. They've written books and everything else, and that they've gotten money from it. Now, whether or not it's true, I don't know how much of it's true. I don't know him or the family, but it's just
crazy.
It's just never ending, man. The money and it's amazing what people do for money. I'm not saying that family did that. I'm just saying it's amazing what people are willing to do to get money, because it's such a worthless thing. Money is such a fleeting thing.
Yeah.
But so the last thing I want to talk about real quick is there's been a lot of, and particularly in the Christian world, there's a lot of tension when it comes to Donald Trump. Even mentioning that name, you just think of division, right?
Yeah.
The thing that's really there was an article I read, and it was talking about the crisis of U.S. Christianity because of him.
Yeah.
Which I thought was interesting, because I don't really think it's a crisis. I think that there is a group of people that got it wrong, that put Trump as the Messiah and the one that God appointed. And then you heard people say, well, the voter fraud is the reason he didn't get elected.
Yeah.
I think it's interesting, because never in the Bible or in the history of mankind has God not gotten something that, not manipulated, but if God pushed it, if God was saying, this is my plan, right? And we were all in alignment. You're saying, well, voter fraud kept Trump out. It was God's plan, but he didn't get in. That's not a biblical concept.
Yeah.
It's not a biblical concept. If God told you, meaning if God wanted him in, there's things that we have free will. I get all that. So does God always get what God wants? No. Like, that's why humans have free will. God doesn't want tragedy, and he doesn't want those things. It wasn't meant for us. But if God told you, and you've heard this from prophets and pastors, if God told you, you've heard people say, God told me that Donald Trump will win the presidency, and he didn't. Well, God didn't tell you that.
Yeah.
If you say he told you that and Trump didn't win, and then people are like, well, it's because of voter fraud. Well, why didn't you say that before? God told me that Trump's going to win the presidency, but because of voter fraud, he's not going to get in.
Yeah.
Like it's so many Christians believe that this was God's man and prophesied, and so many said the reason that he didn't win was that fraud and that God would eventually get his way. And now evangelicals, they were even threatening. There was evangelicals that are very powerful that were threatening Christians, if you didn't vote for Trump, that God's wrath would be upon you. Right? And the control, what you really saw was that over time, there was people trying to control through religion, which is nothing new, right? Trying to control through religion and control through politics, saying that this was God's man, this is God's man. And you know what's interesting to me? Out of every president we've had since I've been alive, I mean, I'm 40. I'm not saying that Trump didn't do some really good things and really bad things. What I'm trying to say is, why was this guy such a polarizing figure to the Christian community, particularly Christians over the age of 60?
Yeah.
I am baffled by this. Why this guy has had such a pull on the older generation of people that are considered to be conservatives. I don't get it, because he's an extremely divisive character. He's extremely manipulative. He's obviously got narcissistic tendencies. How is this public figure someone people really believe God sent to save America? Whenever there were some great things that happened under his presidency, but it was also one of the most divisive times in our nation's history.
Yeah. Destructive
times with race and everything else. And I almost feel like it was anger, things that people wanted to say that they couldn't, that Trump was saying. Things that he did. You talk about Trump, you mentioned that name. People are, there will probably be a death threat or 2 or 3 that come in from this comment.
Yeah.
Let's be honest.
Yeah.
You talk about gun control or Donald Trump, and we hear it.
Yeah.
I don't really care because I think that people have got to. I don't understand how he was such a powerful character for people. I'm not saying he was an awful human. I'm not saying anything. I'm just saying how has he divided people, and how is he the crisis of U.S. Christianity? That's a big statement.
Yeah. Well, I think there's so much like kind of one-upmanship in politics where, this side goes to a further extreme, then this side has to go to a further extreme. And I think there's certain dynamics of, I think it's a certain side of it that he's somewhat of a political outsider. He's not a politician. And so I think there was a hope from people that it's like, oh, something different, something. And so it's almost like that hope, you kind of cover up all of his faults with like, well, this is how he has to be. Like, because it's so corrupt there, you have to be. And it's like, you can make excuses for everything. Well, it's just, yeah. And I think, I don't know, there's a level, I think we've talked about this before. It's just like, I kind of hope that when I'm that age, I don't turn into this person that really only cares about politics all of a sudden. Where it's like, what is that switch that happens where it's like, it's the only thing I want to talk about. It's the only thing that the world's, the world's falling apart, this, that, and the other. And, I hear these conversations sometimes and I'm like, well, this is the world I'm living in. Like, I'm hopeful. I can see God moving amongst, his people and what he's doing. But it's like, it's almost like you hit a line and all of a sudden, like, God's against everybody and it's like, I don't understand that. And all of a sudden that mentality gets grabbed a hold of. And, when you always go back to scripture and you look at our model, which is Jesus, it's like he didn't focus all of his time on this stuff.
I felt like
the opposite.
When I felt like what I saw a shift from, and I think this is where the desperation came and anger. I saw a shift in people that were Christians, that claim to be Christians, that are very conservative, from a dependence on God to a dependence on man.
Yeah.
Where was the guy who was going to change it for us.
Yep.
That was the guy who was going to do this or that. That was the guy who was going to make these big changes. That was the guy who, and don't get me wrong, Donald Trump said some things that were very true that probably most of America agrees with and was glad somebody would finally say. I don't necessarily know what they are, but I think that was a part of his appeal, is that he was willing to say things that no politician would ever say. Yeah. So to your point. Yes. Yeah. And I agree with that. And I think it was refreshing to have somebody who wasn't so polished that you didn't really know their stance. Because everybody knows I'm a political person, that I vote and I believe in putting people in place that can do the best for us and our kids. I believe in all that. Mm-hmm. But I think when you get into politics, it's a lot easier to become a Pharisee than to become passionate about God.
Yes.
And for me, it's not that I don't care, but I don't care. Mm-hmm. I care about who's leading, and I want to pray for them. I want to believe God to speak through them. I want to believe God to do amazing things through them. But when you really get down to it, the things that we hold true as Christians, as these are the way we got to vote, this is what we have to vote for. When you really if you really want to look into politics, sometimes those things don't have the impact you think they do. Yeah. Based on who you're voting for. You know what I mean? It's not even.
Dude, it's the exact opposite of what, you see this in scripture. The Israelites thought that Jesus was going to come back and be this political leader, a king. And he's like, nah, that's not what I'm here to do.
Disciples thought that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's like, the kingdom of God is it's the upside down kingdom, and it's not what you think. And when you watch people go down those roads of literally doing what Jesus came basically not to do, it's hard to watch.
I agree. And I think the best way for me, the way I sum it up, is politics is about the present. Yeah. Faith is about the future.
Yeah, it's good.
Politics is about right now. What's going on in our world? How do we make it better? Faith is about there's heaven. There is a amazing eternity beyond this place that is more alive than we'll ever be here. Yeah. That's why we live. I love what Paul says, and I think about this every time somebody passes away that knew Jesus, is like, you're more alive on that other side than you are here. We don't mourn them like the world mourns, because we know we're going to see them again. Yeah. And I don't know about you, but there's a lot of funerals you think I should cry at that I don't. It's not because I'm not sad I'm not going to see them, but honestly, I'm like, this world is so temporary. We're here for such a short time. Like, I'm going to see them again. And I just don't look at death the same. Yeah. Doesn't mean I don't hurt, and I think this life's going to be different without them, but I know I'm going to see them again. Yeah. And that's for eternity. And that's the real of it. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely.
So, final thought.
Man, I wasn't ready for it. I was so deep in the conversation.
Here's my final thoughts.
What harms your happiness the most, according to therapists? Do you want to give a shot at it?
What harms your comparison?
It's a great guess. And I would say that's definitely one of them. It's not the what they listed, but I would say hands down that's one of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say comparison's a good one. They said shame, guilt, and worry.
Oh, yeah.
Those are what harm your happiness, is that we feel a lot of shame for our life, things we do, don't do, a lot of guilt because things we do and don't do, a lot of worry because we don't know the future.
Yeah.
And it's funny because the Bible talks about all these things. You know, God, each one of these he talks about. But I love the most famous verse in all of the Bible. What do you think it is? I can tell you what I think it is. I don't know if it is, but I'll tell you what I think it is.
I mean, most famous verse?
That you would say, that you probably would say, this is a famous verse out of the Bible.
I mean, John 3:16.
That's it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's me. And that wasn't a quiz. I was just curious what you would say.
Taking a test today, everybody.
Yeah, I was just curious what you would say because I'm curious what you think. Like, what is a verse that you would say is famous? Because there's multiple ones you could use.
Sure.
Philippians 3:14, Jeremiah 29:11.
The most.
Yeah, John 3:16. For God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish but have everlasting life. And that's the verse you see all over the place. It's the one Tim Tebow used to put on his eye black, and they said, no more scriptures on your eye black. It is and that's when it became very popular even because of that. Like, John 3:16 is a verse that people, whether or not they go to church, most people have heard. And if they haven't heard, you just did. Or they know John 3:16. I think what's very interesting about this particular verse is one of the most powerful verses in all of Scripture is the very next verse. Not that it's more powerful than others, but when you look at it in a context of what was being said, it's the very next verse. John 3:17. And it says, for God sent his son into this world not to judge the world, but to save the world through him. And when you think Jesus didn't come to make you feel shameful or guilty or to have to worry about things, but he came not to judge you, but to save you. That changes everything in how our mindset should be towards God. Yeah. It says, God so loved the world that he gave his only son, that whoever, anybody, anywhere, anytime, any place believes in him, you will not perish. You will not die. You will not see death, but you will have everlasting life. We will rejoice at your burial, knowing that your body's buried, but your soul is alive and well and more alive than you ever were in that body. But then just remember that God didn't send Jesus into the world to judge the world, but to save the world through him. And it's just a beautiful picture. And so today when people they're shameful, they're guilty, if we hold on to these verses and we have hope, and the only way that you can do this is to know Jesus, to know him. He's the one who gives you identity. He's the one who brings hope into your life when you feel hopeless. He's the one that helps you feel like, hey, listen, you might feel shameful about things, but I forgive everything. You know, the guilt, the worry, you're not perfect. You're not supposed to be, but Jesus was, and he died on the cross for you. He bore every sin you ever commit, every thought you ever have. Just submit to him. He's got you. It's just a beautiful picture of who God is. You know, it's a beautiful picture of who he is. So, hey, let these things not harm your happiness. Let them be things that when you think of shame, guilt, or worry, rejoice that God has taken away those things, that he loved you enough. He sent Jesus. And those things are in the rearview mirror. You know, let me pray with you today. Lord, we pray for each and every listener. I thank you for them. I thank you for their life. I thank you for what you're doing. I pray that they don't know God, that, Lord, they would just surrender. They would find you. And if they do, that they would know today that, God, there's nothing they have to do. Nothing they have to do to get more of your love or to get more happiness or more joy than just surrender and know that you are theirs and that you love them. Everybody said, amen. Hey, love you guys. We'll see you Sunday, 9:30. Back here next week on the Brand Shank Podcast. See y'all.